gotten ourselves into. This is a fucking mess. No! This is the bad timeline. You know what? It's fine. You know what? Fucking stare the camera down and don't fuck with me, okay? 'Cause I fucking do yoga sometimes and then forget and then fuck my body up and then get back just in the nick of time as to not let everything fall apart. And that's what I'm doing here. That's what I'm doing tonight with making this video. Just trying to fucking cope while everything falls apart. Let's go back to a time before. A time of grunge, Super Nintendo, and of course, MTV. MTV was a game changer in the world of media. Never before was there a station that would cater directly to the counterculture of the time. And while corporate countercultures spiraled into an unhinged nightmare starting around the 2000s, throughout the 80s and 90s, nobody had seen anything like it. While many of us remember the big-name stars that got their exposure through MTV's music videos, fewer remember their late-night animation block, Liquid Television. And it was through Liquid Television that we got the avant-garde masterpiece, that is, Aeon Flux. But what does any of this have to do with politics? I see you angrily fucking skeevling over your keyboard. Like a fucking rodent creature. I love you. Well, our main characters, Aeon and Trevor, both serve as extensions of their nation's ideologies. And it's these ideologies that have a striking resemblance to the different political frameworks that we find ourselves encased within today. Trevor serves as the ruler for the deeply authoritarian police state of Bregna, while Aeon is representative of the more anarchistic and individualistic nation of Monica. So sharpen your pitchforks and ruffle up your feathers, because we're about to see where they go right, where they go wrong, and why they ultimately need each other to survive. I'm gonna be fucking crucified for this one, I swear. This is the one that'll do me in. Throughout most of the show, we're seeing events happen from within the nation of Bregna. Bregna is an authoritarian fascist police state envisioned and run by the character of Trevor. It's through this lens that we can view the nation of Bregna as an extension of Trevor's will, and therefore its culture is subservient to and controlled by his own personal philosophy and ideology. Within this framework, Trevor is able to have the resources to pursue his ultimate goal, consciously controlling the advancement and transformation of the human species to reach our next stage of evolution. I'm going to try and keep this as lighthearted as possible, but we're already getting into eugenics territory, so this is a content warning from here on out. Aeon, by contrast, is a Monican agent. Less is seen of Monica throughout the show, but we can infer that Aeon's personal ideology serves as an analog of their culture. Aeon is an anarchistic individualist. She believes that by allowing the most primal and expressive parts of us to thrive, we can have a better understanding of humanity's place in the world. The core of Aeon Flux stems from the disconnect between Trevor and Aeon's conflicting views of the world. From Aeon's perspective, any attempt Trevor makes at enhancing humanity will ultimately just give us the tools to further destroy ourselves.
Aeon Flux, stop and think! It could have changed everything!
Not the ways that we are.
Everything!
Trevor denies himself his primal humanity for the sake of progress, but that doesn't make those lower aspects of ourselves go away. It just hides them from our conscious mind. Therefore, any cultural or technological construct that Trevor makes will have this animalistic, tribal, fear-based, and controlling lower aspect of humanity embedded within it. It is because of this that Aeon, and by extension the Monican nation, believes that we should look within ourselves and attempt to consciously integrate this more experiential aspect of humanity. This means kink, BDSM, and sexual freedom are on the menu in the nation of Monica, while I'm trying to Switzerland this one out. That leather-bound aesthetic is something we might want to look into in America. Meanwhile, Trevor believes that without some unified purpose or goal, humanity will inherently degrade itself to the level of kinky monsters with no motivation or direction towards progressing into our highest self. That in order to set and reach goals on a societal and cultural level, we need some form of centralized and motivated authority to tell us what is right, what is wrong, and where we're heading as a nation. Is any of this starting to sound familiar? This is where things start to get a little dicey.
Oh no.
From the perspective of the right, it seems like the left has abandoned any appreciation or loyalty for the systems that we've created. Systems that have ended up spreading far beyond our borders, ushering in waves of progress and liberty the world over. They want to destroy our conception of what America is, replacing it with a toxic mentality of victimhood and sexual... Bah is too hot. Can't say it right. Meanwhile, from the left's perspective, the twisted underbelly of the right is in full force, feeding its own skewed set of morals and goals to the destruction of everybody else, consolidating its own power and stopping at nothing until it owns and claims the people of this country. This is the same divide Aeon and Trevor share in their endless struggle to overthrow each other. And while it may be easy to see them as arch enemies, in reality, that divide creates a tension that they love to play with. Aeon and Trevor are not enemies so much as they're lovers. While they are fond of endlessly thwarting each other's plots, they're equally fond of sabotaging their own success in order to get their kink on with each other. Their dynamic is this dance, an ebb and a flow of domination and control, but within that tension is a feeling they've become addicted to. Many of the episodes throughout the show have had the political revolution plotline thrown to the wayside in favor of episodes focusing on Trevor and Aeon emotionally twisting and destroying each other for the sake of gaining control within their relationship dynamics. This kind of toxic codependency is something Trevor and Aeon relish in, yet have trapped themselves within. The left and the right have a staggering similarity to this kind of a relationship dynamic. There's this addiction to the power of taking the other political side over, a love for hatred that is destroying the very fabric of what we would even want out of this nation, and we fucking love it. Our nation is engaged in the petty squabble of lovers that do not know how to break free from the relationship that they themselves have constructed. But it goes deeper than that. Trevor and Aeon need each other in order to define themselves. In between the fighting and the kinking, they both engage in a battle of ideology, constantly pointing out how the other is wrong, but never really seeing eye to eye. Aeon knows she's right because she sees how awful Trevor's mentality of people who cannot rule themselves deserve to be ruled is firsthand. Her whole existence revolves around being the antithesis of this mentality.
I agree. But then I could also say that those who cannot obey themselves must be commanded.
You're psychotic. You no longer have a common conscience with your fellow man.
I never did.
Trevor, on the other hand, knows that what he is doing is the only way to progress humanity out of a destructive stasis. If Aeon's ideology were to take over, then without organization or hierarchy, we would squabble around in the ashes of our own self-destructive nature. Trevor needs Aeon to define himself just as Aeon needs Trevor to define herself. They're ultimately created out of each other's images and can only define themselves with the awareness of the other. This is the exact same kind of symbiosis that our seemingly opposed political sides have for each other. The left and the right are not opposed so much as they are in a state of defining each other out of each other's images. Through this framework, the drive to dominate and control the other's political party is more of a dance, as one party can only evaluate what it wants when it's denied its presence and power in the country. We are defined by what's around us in a messed up and beautiful way, and Aeon Flux saw this coming way ahead of the curve. In the words of Peter Chung, Aeon Flux's creator, revolutionaries need an oppressive establishment to thrive, just as governments need hidden enemies to justify stricture. As I'm finishing up filming this one, we're on the brink of the November 2020 election. And regardless of political ideology, so many people are scared and at a loss as to what the future of this nation holds for them. While talking about all this stuff was sure to ruffle some feathers, I can only hope that bringing a larger perspective provides a sense of comfort to those who feel like their voices are not being heard by those in power. It did for me, at least. So I enjoyed it. This has been Love Letters. On a lighter note, since you've made it this far into the video and I'm not riddled with pitchfork wounds, please consider giving this video a like and a sub. These videos take a lot of time and effort to make, and I'd be glad to hear what y'all think about it.